Alright guys, so this is the Georgia State match for 2018 USPSA. Not a super great match for me, shot way too conservatively. Leading up to the match, my dry fire was basically just standing one spot, shooting at a bunch of targets, and as a result, I stood up really erect, feet close together, didn't get wide, didn't get aggressive. Didn't really get aggressive on the trigger or anything like that either, and it showed, and it really hurt me. So let's jump in. The first stage, it was you can look at the points on the screen. It was a tragedy. It was horrible. I basically fell down, tried to save myself, and couldn't. Tried to hurry down range, and it just didn't work out. So, all right, just pausing right here. So this position, I decided to take these two open targets that you see here, 1, 2, and there was also this partial and this guy. Now, a PCC shooter who shot after me actually kind of turned this into like a position and a half, where he kind of shuffle stepped to his right after he took the partial target. He shuffle stepped to his right as he transitioned onto this, and it gave him the left target in this position, which is the target I left the next position on. That was probably the better way to do it, because you cut out a wide transition doing it that way. But okay, I almost fell down, starting to panic because I need to get downrange fast, and I just skipped those two targets. So that's 4 mic, 4 penalties for failure to shoot at. This all went pretty good except for those 3 shots right there, was because you can't really see it, but I just barely clipped the perf on the no shoot right there. So there's your next penalty. So despite having 7 penalties, I still was able to keep a positive hit factor, so I guess that's good, but this still hurt me about 5% on the match. Overall, I was 76. I'd have been over 80% if it had gone through. So next stage, this was a pretty plain Jane stage. There wasn't, you could run it left to right or right to left. I'm right-handed, so I ran it left to right. First position went okay, second position went okay. I could have gotten a little more aggressively getting out of that position, didn't. Bad reload there. Coming to position, I just took that one target, and by taking that one target, I could shoot pretty much 3/4 of the stage from a single position here in the middle, and everything had about its best presentation I could get. Because the makeup shots, I did a second reload onto the final targets. So coming in there, okay, that was pretty sporty. Careful on the partials, sure. Okay, careful on these guys. Probably a little too careful for the level of difficulty. Okay, ran it with fury, good boy. Look at okay. Up, make up on steel. Too slow, too slow, too slow, too slow. But you can see all this, I'm just standing up too erect. Okay, this was a really fun stage. Let's pause and talk about this stage. You had a bunch of options. You could do what I did, which was go to one side and take the leftmost target. You can see the target there. Then run to the right or your strong side and shoot the other 3. And that would create 2 positions and would be kind of hard leans, and so that's what I decided to do, because the other option was I could have gone to my knee or stomach. Going to the stomach wasn't really great because these targets, as you can see, were a little bit too high. So if you did prone out on your stomach, you'd have to really lift your head up to get to the A zone. If these were further down, that's absolutely what I would have done, but not real sure what I did. The other option was, and I nearly did this, was taking a knee right in front of this fence and then holding the pistol up in front of the tree safe fence there and looking through the fence at my dot. And I thought about that, and I nearly did it, changed my mind at the last second because I was worried that I'd lose the dot and waste a bunch of time, because this was going to be a time heavy stage. So it turned out to be, I shot at 9.73 seconds. I think the guy who won the stage shot it in like 6.8 or something crazy like that with all the points. So if I'd shot in those last 2 targets a little more aggressively, it would have gone a little bit better for me. This stage was interesting. It took about 20 minutes to figure out. Basically, it was this tiny shooting box with 24 shots required, and you had to be in at least 3 positions, so it was on you to kind of figure it out. I just got too methodical and shot everything at the same cadence, didn't change gears hardly at all, and it's going to show. I think I was a couple seconds off the pace. I think the guy who won the stage shot it in like 13 seconds. I shot it in like 17 or 18. Just playing it safe, trying not to do barrel strikes, just way too slow a cadence. This match had so many of these freaking, they call these a tuxedo target. If you don't know, this match had so many of them. I mean, this stage alone has, I think, 6, and it really put the brakes on anything. This was a dumb use of tuxedo targets if you're a match director, because this was a real risk-reward type of array, as was that other array. If these were open, then you could have forced shooters to shoot at these fast and risk dropping points trying to pick up speed. But as a result, with the hardcover, you get a bunch of people shooting minor going after the points like I did. See, look how slow I'm shooting all those. Those were easy shots. Those shots were okay for the distance they were. Okay, that was a little miscue. You can see here, I actually dropped the mag on my gun that slapped it back in because I tried to reload, so you can see me come up and do that. Should have shot these faster. Those were 15-yard targets. So here we go with Tuxedo State. Look at that, all those tuxedos. Again, tuxedos and partials in the first position, forcing you to be a lot more careful. Rolled through there pretty good. Came in pretty good on that. Okay, so this next bit here was a strategy call. You can begin to see over here, basically there's an open target with another open target on the other side of the barrier. There's a tuxedo over here, and there's a tuxedo over here. I wanted to try and do 2 things at once and shoot on the move on both of the open targets, then as my feet settled, take both the tuxedos. Executed it okay, rather than just making it be a totally static position. But look how slow I shot that open target. Same speed as the tuxedos. Didn't change gear at all. I got to tell the story of the reshoot on this stage. Before we go into that position. So on this stage, I got super lucky because as they were scoring it, I kind of paused and was wandering around like I was, or excuse me, in the second position, I started kind of wandering around the stage and got lost in my stage play, and cost about 2.5 seconds. But as they were scoring, there were a couple targets left. The iPad overheated and it dumped all my scores. They couldn't score it, so I got a reshoot. So what you're seeing is the reshoot, and I got a very fortuitous reshoot on this stage. But let's talk about this positions, because I've gotten a couple comments about how to do this position. And so what I decided to do is to take the 2 targets on the way in, then post up on the hard stuff as my feet were settling, because that, I mean, you see that before all my weight settled down on my feet, I had engaged both those targets at a pretty good clip. But look how erect I'm standing right there. It's going to take me an eternity to get it out of position with my feet that close together. It should be much wider, a little bit lower. There was an open target here, then 2 poppers is what I'm taking in this position. So I ended up exiting on 2 15-yard mini poppers. Okay, so the reason I didn't do what everyone thinks I should do, because basically you would have had to come in on this position on the poppers, which means you would have to wait the whole eternity for your feet to settle before you shot at those 2 15-yard poppers. You would switch on to the open target at 15 yards and then kind of shoot out of position on these 2 things. The spot to do the reload is right here leaving this position, so that's what I did. There's a stage marker just off frame. Imagine this fault line extends out. There's a second little nail hole right here. You put your left toe on that nail hole. You can see my eyes seating the mag and already looking towards that nail hole to make sure I get my foot there. And the strategy call to me to hit this position, because if you miss this position, you couldn't see these poppers, and this target that is just off the screen there was not visible through that window. So if you wanted everything to be in exactly the right thing, you had to hit the position right. So I still think this was the right way to do it, although it was about 3 seconds off the pace, so maybe it wasn't. See, and then, hey, look, more tuxedos. Alright, I'm really disappointed with how I shot these 2 open targets. These were sub 5-yard targets. Listen to this cadence. The split time is just, I mean, they might as well be at 25 yards at that rate. Okay, so this was an interesting one. You had choices. I drew to just this target over here, and there were also 4 targets off to the right you could shoot at from the initial box. You could pick up about 4 or 5 yards on those targets by coming up through the door, which is what I did. Some people shot these, this one, and then all 4 of those, then ran through this door, and I did it the other way. And I think it was an execution play. It was easier to get points the way that I shot it versus the way that they shot it. So disappointed with how I engage these open targets, all of them at the same mechanical cadence. That should have been faster, Poppers were okay. Reload's okay. Okay, that's okay. Listen to how slow I'm shooting these open targets. That was awful. Made up a Charlie there, shouldn't have done that. Last stage of the day. Okay, so I'm going to pause here and talk about match nutrition. So I think I've got my match nutrition for a 6 or 7 stage match dialed in. Just bring some electrolyte water, switch it out with regular water, alternating on stages. Bring a lunch, bring a couple cans of coffee, make sure I'm well caffeinated. To that end, I was good to go. But I was just fatigued by the end of the stage, or the end of the day, and I think it was because I had kind of a lower carb lunch, and all my snacks were kind of lower carb. At this point, I think I probably needed just kind of something sugary, kind of a carb bomb, maybe like a Gatorade, to get the sugars back up and fire in the belly. But everyone was beat. I mean, it was 90 degrees and it was super humid. So, but everybody had to shoot in it. So. You could shoot these targets and run across, or you could just do the U shape. I didn't want to run up range because it's slower than running down range. So, I mean, I think that I had the high cap plan, and it was probably the best one for the high cap divisions as far as I was concerned. A little weak on the transitions there. Let's go back and look at that real quick because that was one of the mics. Let's see. Yeah. Alright, so that target, it was Alpha Mike, and I have no idea where it went or how I mic'd it. It's wide open at about 15 yards. So that was the second mic on that tuxedo right there. I had a hardcover mic right on the line. Didn't quite stretch and make the points, so that was my issue there. I mean, you're going to have some mics on a match like that. I can't get too upset, but the mechanical cadence, so... All in all, what I want to work on, I want to get wider, I want to get lower and more aggressive. Now that I have settled in the new place, I can practice and train that way, and so it's going to be proper racer speed on the next one. So anyway, appreciate you guys watching, and I'll catch you on the next one.